to Wayne County Executive Warren C. Evans. I'd like to start off by thanking all the members of the media that are present today. I also want to thank each and every individual in this room that participated, had some sort of buy-in to the support, the success of this program. It's allowing us to be here today. The purpose of this press conference is to highlight the collective efforts of all the principal stakeholders here today, which has led to a significant decrease in the criminal case backlog within our courts and a reduction in violent crime, more specifically homicide, non-fatal shooting, and carjackings. Today you'll hear from Wayne County Executive Warren Evans, City of Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan, Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy, Chief Judge of the Third Circuit Court Patricia Fazzard, Chief Judge of the 36th District Court William McConico, Wayne County Sheriff Raphael Washington, Michigan Department of Corrections Director Heidi Washington, Detroit Police Chief James White, and I also want to recognize our Deputy County Executive Assad Turfy and Chairwoman Alicia Bell, Wayne County Commission. At the conclusion of Chief White's remarks, who will be last, we'll open up the floor for questions. At this time, we give you Wayne County Executive Warren Evans.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, and thank everyone for being here. I'm tremendously excited about our accomplishments that we're going to talk about today. And I've been around long enough, I don't get really excited too easily. So in past years, believe me, if you look down this list here, you would not see everybody together smiling. Government's complicated. Government has lots of different layers, and we all came together here. In 2019, we put together a violent crime reduction unit kind of task force, and it was led by what we call the FAST team, the Fugitive Apprehension Service Team, that had the task of going out serving warrants on gun offenders and violent offenders. They've been doing a great job since 2019, and I've been asked many times to let's have a press conference to talk about their accomplishments. We had to see some statistical data that the impact from those things were really making a difference on crime in Detroit and Wayne County, and we're really excited today to talk about how that's worked. That team has been fabulous. They've made great arrests. They've done significant things. But nobody wants to hear about the numbers of arrests. What people want to hear about is the overall reduction in crime. And those officials that you've elected to do work in this county and this city are actually working together to see that those things get done. An amazing level of cooperation, highlighted by the fact that all of these stakeholders, when we got together, all wanted to figure out how do we work together as a team as opposed to who should we point the finger at who screwed up last week or who had a specific issue. What really added to the, I guess, the focus on this and success was COVID, which not only in Detroit but throughout the country, everybody's dockets were backlogged. The court's dockets, I don't care what court, law enforcement had a problem keeping enough officers on the street, not just because of the impact of the disease of COVID, but I don't know what happened to thousands of people. I'm being a little facetious right now. Really hard to find employees during that period of time. It was really hard to keep employees during that period of time, and so the Sheriff's Office, the Detroit Police Department had difficulty just maintaining the strength necessary, the manpower strength, to be able to get out and do their job. So in many areas, COVID highlighted what we already knew, which is we've got some systems that are overworked and they need to be fixed. Most systems in a criminal justice system don't get fixed easily because you have so many layers of government that are critically involved. You have the city, you have the county, you have a county court, you have a city court, you have the prosecutor's office, you have the Michigan Department of Corrections that I hadn't mentioned yet, which is a state agency, which is very critical to this group. And so when we all get together and look at what the court backlog is, look at the data to suggest what is not happening or what has happened adversely as it relates to the pandemic, we all sat down and figured out it's not just catching bad guys, but we got to make sure that we're focusing the catching bad guys on system improvements, and we can't overlook the fact that dockets are being crunched in many areas, crunched, overcrowded, and not realize that has an impact on safety in the streets. It absolutely does. When people are out on bond for subsequent crimes, out on bond again, put on tether, out on bond, those of us who have been in the business for a long time understand they don't just sit home and twiddle their fingers while they're on bond. Many go back out and commit additional crimes. So the quicker we can get at those backlogs, the quicker we can dispense justice in a reasonable way, the better off we're all going to be. And I just want to, and I'm going to turn the mic over in just a minute to the mayor of the city of Detroit, who, by the way, was once a prosecutor. And in another life, I once was a police chief and a sheriff. And so we both have had experiences with violent crime, the problems with violent crime, and ways to deal with violent crime when we all are a part of running bureaucracies that don't always want to sync up and get things done the right way. This is an example of it being done the right way. And I'm going to turn the mic over to the mayor of the city of Detroit, who will drill into just how we know these initiatives have paid off. And by the way, at a time when they're not paying off many places in this country. You know, what we have been able to do here is directly opposite to what we're seeing in major cities all throughout the country. With no further ado, let me turn the microphone over to Mayor Mike Duggan.
This is a day that we've been waiting for a long time. When I talk to teenagers in the city of Detroit and ask the question, how many of you know somebody who's been shot? Doesn't matter what room you're in, most of those teenagers raise their hands. I mean, it's heartbreaking to think what they're growing up with. The number of children who go to bed at night and can hear gunfire. We cannot build the kind of city that we want if you're afraid. And we were making significant progress before COVID. And then here and all across America, violent crime soared. And I love reading these psychological profiles and medical reasons. It's a bunch of nonsense. We know why violent crime soared in America. The criminal courts shut down. You couldn't put 12 jurors in a room. And so about 2 years ago, and as the executive mentioned, it was also hard to hire police officers. We were down 300 police officers. I went to the executive. I said, I got this plan. We're going to give our officers $10,000 raises. I'm going to fill these 300 officer positions. We got a great police chief, great police force. But let me show you what's going on. And we sat down. And we're blessed here because there's no other county executive in the country who was a sheriff and a police chief. Nobody has to explain anything to Warren Evans about law enforcement. And I said, you have today 4,000 felony gun cases waiting trial at circuit court. It's an astonishing number. You size your jail beds for a 3 to 6 month docket. You house prisoners who can't make bond until they're at trial in 3 to 6 months. At 4,000 cases, this is a 2-year backlog. There's no jail beds for these 4,000 folks. What happened? The judges had to put them out on very low bond. They had no choice. People who shot people were out on the street. And Sheriff Washington did the best he could to put tethers on them. Tethers were originally conceived as a way that somebody could be incarcerated at home instead of the jail. They'd be in their house except when they were at work or at school. Except there were so many people on tether, there was nobody to monitor them. And I showed the county executive, we had a shooting at a party at 2:30 in the morning on a Saturday night. And when we ran the tether report, 22 people who were pretrial fellas on tether were within 100 feet of the shooting. I mean, there was no criminal justice system functioning. And when the county executive looked at that, he says, you could hire all the cops you want. But if they arrest them and they're promptly bonded out, they're back on the street the next day doing the same activities, the crime is going to get away from us. But we knew what it took to make this work. You needed everybody. You needed the prosecutor, you needed the sheriff, you needed the district court, you needed the circuit court, you needed the state. And as the county executive said, I'll be glad to pull them all together, but none of them work for me, right? I mean, I support them financially, but we owe the county executive a great debt of gratitude. He was the driving force, brought the people into this room, and all we did was sit down together and share data. Nobody told anybody what to do, but we all understood what the cause of the violence was. And so it was remarkable to see what happened. Judge McConaughey stepped up first. When he looked at the backlog on 36th District Court on the gun cases, he actually stepped in and took the docket himself and started to hear cases. So he led his colleagues by example and generated some serious momentum. In January, we got the greatest gift. Patricia Frazard became chief judge of the Wayne County Circuit Court, and she is a force of nature. I have never seen anything like what's happened this last year. Is basically you took a court, like most other courts in America, was on a schedule working from home, and she got enormous productivity out of those judges so that the cases could be handled timely and fairly, which put all the pressure in the world on Kim Worthy and the Wayne County prosecutors. I used to be the prosecutor. It's a huge docket to handle your everyday cases. What Prosecutor Worthy had to do was take 3,000 or 4,000 backlog cases and handle those at the same time. And she was short of staff, but with the county executive support, they got significant raises, was able to start to do it. But somehow Prosecutor Worthy was able to handle these cases. And you see from the numbers that we passed out, the circuit court backlog went down from 4,000 felons out waiting for trial down to 1,400. A lot of things happened. When you had 4,000 backlogged and it was 2 years, every defense attorney was saying to their client, don't take a plea. They're not going to get to you for 2 years. And the problem snowballed. Once the system started to work, we got back into the natural flow of the way things have operated, and I still don't know how the prosecutor managed it. And then Sheriff Washington, who came in and says, I don't like the way this tethering is working at all. If you get me down to a manageable number, we will monitor these individuals, and he's done it. Now, 85% of the individuals are on restriction. The sheriff is out. He's responding quickly when anybody violates tether is meaning what is supposed to be. And at the state level, I called Governor Whitmer, and I was so pleased that the Corrections Director, Heidi Washington, and her team came down and participated. Because when you are out on probation and parole, it is supposed to be supervised probation and parole. And if you're violating, there should be consequences, there should be home checks. And the Department of Corrections started doing 50 home visits a week in partnership with the Detroit Police to make sure the probationers, the parolees were where they were supposed to be and were in compliance. Chief White and the Detroit Police Department, what they have done has been miraculous. But they were doing a great job all along. They're doing a much better job now that they've got an extra 200 cops this year. They'll have 100 more on the street next year. But when the rest of the system works, the Detroit police look that much better. And I don't know, I've seen a year where we've had so much help from the public on cases. It started that weekend of April 15th when we had the 6 shootings downtown, and tips from the public helped us make all 6 arrests, get all 6 folks charged. But the public in this city seems like they are fed up with this violence. And in other places in America, there's a discussion of defund the police. In the city of Detroit, our residents strongly support those efforts. And finally, Speaker Joe Tate, Representative Tyrone Carter, Governor Whitmer, $12.5 million of funding. They realized we needed extra visiting judges. We needed extra prosecutors. We had to do that for the backlog. And Brian Reinhardt kicked this off. He and Rob Shinsky from our staff manage the data on a daily basis. It sounds boring, but moving 4,000 pretrial felons through the system so that there's accountability in a fair way, we've seen now numbers we've never seen, 18% reduction in homicide. 60 more people are going to be living this year because our homicide rate went down. More than 100 fewer shootings and carjackings at the lowest level on record. We've gone from, when we started Greenlight in 2015, we've gone from 10 carjackings a week down to 3. It is starting to be the kind of success we want. One last note, and I want to say thank you again to Dawn Eisen, the U.S. Attorney, and all of our federal partners, the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, the U.S. Marshal. They have been great partners in taking gun cases federally. We've had 2 announcements where the U.S. Attorney has highlighted those successes. But what you haven't heard is a story of the people standing here who have been around this table, who just decided enough was enough on the violence, and just every single one of them. And I'll tell you one more side story to give you a sense of how we're working. We decided we're not blaming anybody. We all know what this caused. But Prosecutor Worthy came in one day, and she says, I'm seeing a whole lot of dismissals at 36th District Court because Detroit police officers aren't showing up at the courtroom. And it's like, how many parts of the system are messed up? But Chief White put a team on it. Turned out we had notification issues. It also turned out we had the cops in the buildings a lot of times, and nobody told them when court was called. We fixed a process together that has almost eliminated dismissals because officers not being there. All anybody wants is justice. If somebody's innocent, they ought to be acquitted. If it's a first offense or a minor offense, they should be treated fairly. But if they are a violent criminal, the victims have a right to justice as well. And that's starting to happen again. And so at this point, I get the opportunity to introduce a person who's worked long hours. She was supposed to be out of town for her birthday tomorrow on a trip. But she wanted to be here to make sure to give credit to the men and women of the prosecutor's office who are so responsible where we are today, and all the other folks who are here with us. So I'll introduce now Prosecutor Kim Worthy.
You know, I'm not going to lie. I've been asked to be a part of several groups working on different issues. And when I was first told about this collaborative, and I love collaboratives when they work, I said, okay, yeah, right, whatever. And so I have to tell you, from the day that I started working with this group of people, and you have the actual stakeholders at the table, not someone you have to go back and ask their boss, but they're right at the table, and we can make decisions instantaneously. Talk about solutions instantaneously. The mayor at the table and everybody that you're going to hear right at the table, and we can make decisions there. And I have rarely been a part of a group like that. So my distrust of some of these processes went away very quickly. These are issues that most of us have been working on in some individual capacity for a very long time. But when you get the right collection of people at the table, when you have a chief that picks up the phone, and we talk all the time, and we discuss issues, when you have a mayor that's invested in I have to talk about the county executive in a minute and all that he's done. When Chief McConaughey and I are talking and texting, same with Judge Fazzard, who's been a friend for many years, and you get people at the table who you know and you trust, and you know they have their passion in their heart and their spirit right at that table, it makes it so much easier. And I've said for many, many years, I've had weeks, months, and sometimes years when I say, why is it so hard? Why is it so freaking exhausting to get justice done in Wayne County? Because you don't have the right elected officials in place. You don't have the right people who really don't have an agenda in place. Their only agenda is to make sure that justice is done and people are treated fairly, and that we deliver services to the citizens of Wayne and the city of Detroit. So when you get a collection of people like that, and also the commission, again, making things so much easier than it used to be. So much easier with Chair Bell and Sheriff Washington as well when he was kind of newer on the scene. So this collaboration has produced great dividends, great results. There has been a global approach to fix some of these issues caused by the pandemic, as the mayor said and as the county executive said. I want to talk a minute about Hassan Beydoun, who is the mayor's, I believe, lobbyist in Lansing, who helped secure the money that he was talking about, because we've been trying to do that for years. And so the security, let me just tell you what this money is going to do for the prosecutor's office. It's going to bring prosecutors back to work in Detroit's most violent precincts. We had to discontinue that program because we didn't have the staff. It was an immensely popular and great program that gave results, some of which you will see today. We are going to be able to focus on cases with a gun violence component. What do I mean by that? The domestic violence cases, the child abuse cases, the regular gun cases. When I say regular, I mean the straight gun possession cases. We're going to have prosecutors that will focus on that. And so we have looked at our numbers of domestic violence homicides and domestic violence cases where there are weapons involved. We've looked at our numbers where there are child abuse cases where children are held at gunpoint and who are shot with guns. And we're going to be able to have prosecutors focus on those gun cases. We're going to be able to have prosecutors that focus on the gun warrant requests that come in. We're going to bring back some restorative justice programs that help people so they know what the consequences of possessing a firearm, an illegal firearm in Detroit. There was a program that we had many, many years in the 36th District Court that worked on Saturday mornings with Judge Willie Lipscomb, may he rest in peace, teaching defendants who had illegal guns what the consequences were. We brought in medical examiners, we brought in medical personnel, we brought in people who had been harmed by gun violence in wheelchairs, quadriplegics, paraplegics to talk to these defendants. We're going to be able to bring that back because we lost the money. We are going to expand the VCRI program, the Violent Reduction Task Force that the executive talked about, who we focus on homicide warrants. And we also are going to be, and this is very, very near and dear to me, be able to recruit and train prosecutors and retain prosecutors. And I've said this before, the county is so invested in making sure that we fill the vacancies that we have. And when you have vacancies in a prosecutor's office, that means many things. It means we can't prosecute our crimes to the extent that we should be able to. It means we cannot represent our victims well. It means we cannot really deliver our services to make Wayne County a safe place. And I always joke when I have a meeting with the county executive, I'm not going to be there more than 20 minutes. Because he gets it. I don't have to explain all the layers to him. He knows what it is. He knows what I'm going to be talking about when I walk through the door. And most often than not, he knows what the solutions are going to be before I walk through the door. So it's been a great partnership, and I cannot tell you, I've been doing this for a long time. It has never been this easy to get things done. And when I say easy, I don't mean the solutions are easy. I mean working with the people that we're working with is easy. We can cut through all that and get to the nitty-gritty of what we have to do. I've talked about the major investment from the county. And we could not have done it without it. We are beginning to fill our vacancies with young lawyers. We are still having some challenges getting experienced people back in the office, but people are hearing about what the county has done and how committed they are to the prosecutors in our office. They were getting phone calls almost every week about people who might want to come back, and so that's always a great thing. So I want to just echo how great it is to have a police chief that recognizes problems, that doesn't duck from major issues, that's willing to talk about what we need to be fixed, what we need to fix, and it makes it so much easier for us to get real change. So let me just, in closing, say that there's been unprecedented progress made between all the stakeholders here, the 36th District Court, the 3rd Circuit Court, and also some of our district courts, that this is also the rippling effect into making sure that we deliver justice in Wayne County. You know, we all have very hard jobs, but we are trying our best to work collaboratively to do what people, in the case of those of us that are elected us to do, but we all care passionately about making our county safe. And thank you to everybody in this room. Thank you. I hope you get the word out. And we still have a lot more work to do, but I'm feeling more confident than I have in many years that we're going to get it done. So thank you to all my partners. Judge Patricia Broussard, the Chief Judge of the Wayne County Circuit Court.
Well, I was invited to this table on literally my first day of work as Chief of the Wayne County Circuit Court. And I also want to thank so much all of these partners. It was astonishing, the work that was being done. And our court, as dedicated public servants, were thrilled with the opportunity to join forces and partner to serve our community better. COVID forced the shutdown of jury trials in Wayne County Circuit Court for the better part of 2 years. This had a significant impact on our community because our court, Wayne County Circuit Court, tries 4 times the capital cases as the next busiest court in our state. During this shutdown, our team first strategized and restructured to remote work while seeing the backlog continue to increase. We were eagerly awaiting opportunity to come back on site and call back our juries. But in January of this year, with the support of this partnership, the court fully reopened to tackle the backlog of criminal cases and to recover stronger than before. And it was enabled by this group to a full opening of our courthouse with a force much stronger than we could ever attain without this coalition. This partnership was key in supporting our efforts to recover stronger in bringing justice to our community. We collaborated to find solutions. We implemented systems that resulted in reducing the criminal backlog that was expected to take us 5 years, and we reduced it by 75% to date and closed over 2,500 cases this year alone. Our criminal felony court has been full force on site conducting trials daily, directly resulting in a safer community and positively impacting our families who are seeking justice. We have had substantially more jury trials this year than pre-COVID, despite lingering challenges, including the workforce shortages that were mentioned, to attain 133% clearance rate, showing that we are resolving many more cases that are coming in at this time, a direct reflection of tackling that backlog. In 2022, we brought 244 cases to trial, and this year we were able to bring about 750 cases to resolution through setting those firm trial dates. Our court is grateful to this task force and to our hardworking judges, our hardworking staff, and our community members who are willing to serve as jurors to render fair verdicts to bring justice to our community. Thank you. And I want to call up my partner, Chief Judge of the 36th District Court, William McConaughey. Thank you.
I didn't want Prosecutor Worthy to be alone, so I brought the crutches as a prop today. First of all, it is an honor to be amongst this group. I remember when I was asked to have a breakfast with Mayor Duggan and Executive Evans, and I thought we were just going to talk about, you know, how life is going, and the mayor came with stats about my court. Executive Evans went through all kinds of crime data, and I said, okay, this is not that type of breakfast. So we got to it really quick, though, and the numbers were staggering. And what our court is, a mantra of our court is about access to justice. And if you have a backlog of cases, whether it is the victim or whether it's the defendant, if the case cannot be heard for months and sometimes out years, there's not an access for justice for anyone. And so we went to work, and we went to work immediately. I had a concept of starting a docket to handle guns only, and I didn't want to have another judge do it or add to someone else's docket, so I said I'll do it myself. But you can't just do things yourself. I had to contact the chief judge of the Wayne County Circuit Court because the work I would need to do, I needed to be cross-designated as a circuit court judge. That happened. We went to the state court administrator's office, and they cross-designated 3 judges at our court so that we could handle these gun cases from the beginning to the end, and so we were able to get rid of that backlog, and it was because of the partnership. Sat at this very table, and we were talking about monitorization of defendants who were on bond, and I heard from Sheriff Washington and Chief Dunlap of the issues with monitoring. I was under the assumption at that time that when magistrates were setting bonds that they were giving conditions, but through the pandemic they were just given a GPS tether and people could be out. And when we heard the story of how many people were at a shooting that were on tether, I said, we can change that next week. And so now when a person is out on a tether bond, either there's a curfew or they're under house arrest. There is no just you're on a GPS tether. And those are things that were very tangible that came from sitting at this desk. When things were discussed, again, we did not have to go to another channel, We made decisions, and the stats speak for themselves. The city is a much safer place. The access for justice has increased, and, you know, Chief Rizar, she called me her partner. Sometimes she has a way of texting or calling between 6:30 and 7:30 in the morning. During my daughter's drop-off for high school, that's when we're discussing this stuff. But we talk that way. I've talked more with the prosecutor. I've known her for over 20 years. I've talked more in the last 20 months than those years before that. And it's all to get to the result. And so I'm very proud of being a part of this group. And I will say, I said it before we came in here, Mayor Duggan and Executive Evans. This was their brainchild. They didn't put their staff on it and just walk away. They've been here every step of the way. I want to thank the judges on the felony division at the 36th District Court for the hard work that they've done. When others were working remotely, they were in the building. My court administrator, she speaks with Rob Shinsky and the other folks from the city every day, all day, and they're working on and pulling this stuff together. So it couldn't happen without the staff and without the people here. So I want to thank you. And we have, I'm sorry, I guess this is the hard part. Sheriff Washington is next.
Good afternoon. I won't be before you long. I don't want to be redundant and talk about the VCRI unit, Violent Crime Reduction Initiative, but I think it's important that you all know just a couple of numbers, and then I'll talk about our electronic monitoring, how we collaborate together with other agencies, and how we best serve them as well. So since its inception, the Violent Crime Reduction Initiative, which was 2019, I think it's important that you know that we have arrested, the Wayne County Sheriff's Office deputies, along with Detroit Police Department officers, have arrested 3,646 felons. I think that's a number that you want to hear about because this stuff is result-driven. 3,367 juveniles, 150 homicide detainers. So as part of that number, this year has been actually our best year with nearly 1,000 arrests. And I think that's important that you all know, working together, law enforcement, we're stronger together because we're all short and all kind of lacking in personnel. But when we come together as a collaborative effort, we can get these results and get these things done. So I just wanted to mention that. I also want to talk about, very briefly, our Operation Community Connection, electronic monitoring of our inmates' information sharing with other agencies. So that initiative has enhanced information sharing between law enforcement agencies across Wayne County and has been instrumental in reducing crime in Detroit and other cities across Wayne County. The initiative is partly responsible for making our communities safer by allowing law enforcement agencies such as Detroit, Dearborn, and others the ability to monitor and track the activities of individuals on court-ordered release from the jails while awaiting trial across Wayne County. This information sharing initiative is also responsible for aiding and enhancing the investigative efforts of police departments in Wayne County by allowing the departments the ability to track, pinpoint, locate, and arrest individuals on tether that may have been involved with other crime incidents occurring in our community. Again, Wayne County Sheriff's Office, Detroit Police Department working together to get it done for the citizens of Wayne County, and I think is admirable, and I want to thank Chief White and obviously Mayor Duggan and the county exec, Warren Evans, for allowing this collaboration to come together and get the job done. So thank you very much.
You want to invite Heidi up?
Oh, and my other counterpart, no relations, but Heidi Washington. Yes.
Thank you. Well, it's good to be here today. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. County Executive, and everybody in the room. As you've already heard, the results of this effort are clear. When we work together in a proactive fashion, local, county, and state, we can make tremendous impact in making our community safer. And when I thought about that, it doesn't really seem like rocket science, does it? But the difference is, and I think you've heard it, it is having these people at the table who can get right to the core of the issue and make decisions to get things done. And I saw that happening in every meeting that we had. And I want to say that the county executive and the mayor approach these meetings, I think, a little bit differently, saying these are in person. We want to be together in person. And I think that's important when you want to get things done. And if people weren't able to be in person, everybody was there virtually. But for the most part, in person, every meeting. And I think that made a difference. And I'm very proud of the work that the Michigan Department of Corrections did and has played and will continue to play importantly in this effort, and also the support of the administration of Governor Whitmer throughout this entire process. The department has helped take illegally possessed guns off the streets and out of the hands of high-risk individuals. Knowing these individuals will be held accountable for their actions is key. That's why the reduction of these backlogs in the courts has been so critical to this effort. By focusing our approach on those at greatest risk of new violent behavior, we reduce the likelihood of serious crime, and most importantly, why we're all here, preventing future victims. This proactive approach has shown that when we work together, we stay focused on our goal and our commitment, we can and will, and in fact have, made a historic difference. So I want to say thank you for allowing myself and the Department of Corrections to be part of this effort to make our community safer. I appreciate the work of all of the partners, and I look forward to our continued collaboration. And with that, I will turn it over to Chief White from the DPD. Thank you.
Well, I'm the last speaker, so I'm going to be brief, but I do want to just take a moment and say thank you to a few people. Certainly, County Executive Evans and my mayor, Mayor Duggan, for their vision. I mean, understanding what we need in the police department to help get this criminal justice process under control is amazing. Having a former prosecutor as a mayor and former police chief and sheriff as a county exec certainly frees up you to have the right types of conversations at those meetings. You don't have to spend a lot of time wasting time talking about what if. They get right to the point. But what's imperative to understand and how we need to really embrace this moment, I can wrap it up in this way. 28 years of law enforcement, this is the first time I've had the privilege of sitting with people I viewed as figures 20-something years ago, right? Just important figures in our city and our state, but to have them at the table and making decisions immediately and solving problems and understanding, look, I've got the best police department in the country, I'm going to say it over and over again, but the system was broken, and bringing all that together and getting that to work, and we find ourselves where we are today. So first and foremost, I'm just going to give out a few thank you. Thank you, County Executive Evans. Thank you, Mayor Duggan. Thank you, Prosecutor Worthy. The conversations that we have day in and day out, she does not sleep, by the way. I can call her anytime, day or night, and on the weekends. And we talk about problems, but we also leave the call with solutions. So I could not be more grateful. And the impact that those community prosecutors have on closing cases and the confidence that they build with our community is incredible. There are times when we have prosecutors at precincts, particularly in non-fatal shootings, that are willing, or citizens are willing to talk to prosecutors and share information with them that they may not be willing to share with officers. It's just an incredible program, and I'm so happy to see it come back. Judge Fassard, thank you. Judge McConnell, another person I talk to a lot and can pick up the phone. My partner, Sheriff Washington, the Tether program, and having access, immediate access with our real-time crime center to that information to tell us who's in an area of these critical incidents and these violent incidents, and the judge really just saying, hey, look, there's something that we can fix right now, and fixing it is incredible. And then our partners at the MDLC under Ms. Washington for her continued support with everything from our DDC to our home checks, which are another valuable tool that our ceasefire units use. I said I was going to be brief, but I got a few more thank yous. Hassan Beydoun out of the mayor's office. And again, this is, talking the walk and walking the talk. I mean, having access to a person in the mayor's office that's willing to solve a lot of these problems and secure dollars for us at the state level where we can hire police officers, the $10,000 raise, and now having a backlog of officers trying to get back to our department is something that I never thought I'd see in the time I've been with this department. And then Mr. Reinhardt, Director Reinhardt, and driving this program. Rob Shinsky, who doesn't get any credit but should, thank you. And then on my team, A.C. Fitzgerald, one of our assistant chiefs, who are bugged 24 hours a day about this work and is always ready to solve problems. A few process improvement people, Deputy Chief Sloan, who worked on this court issue with our officers showing up for court. The report I saw this morning was just absolutely incredible. Director Elzine, Fatima Elzine, who is our lean and process improvement person. All of this is really a depiction of how this thing is working together, how we have a layered approach to solving problems and driving down crime in our city. And this is the results, and we're going to keep it going. The reward for good work is more work. So we've got some really significant numbers to compete against, but it's saving lives in our community. One less death saves a life for an entire family. The impact of violent crime in our community is something that we see every day, whether it's retaliatory crime that happens as a result, whether it's PTSD that goes unaddressed in our community. When you're talking about numbers like this, where you are saving lives, you've got an 18% reduction in homicide, a 13% reduction in non-fatal shootings. And when you talk about a non-fatal shooting, which essentially is a failed homicide, think about your homicide rate if just half of those numbers had accomplished their goal. And then lastly, the carjacking numbers. Carjackings were something that were normalized in our community. We just fought it. We tried to drive the numbers down. And when you see those kinds of numbers, historic numbers, it tells you that this program is working. So got that all out in less than 5 minutes. Thank you all very much. And this has been great. Thank you.